So I get to introduce you, Chief.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good thing.
We'll wait for the key. Our nominee commissioners coming up.
Kevin, join us, please.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming. Is this microphone on? Can you hear me? Okay. I am a river fanatic through and through. I grew up here along the banks of the Delaware. I remember very fondly many summer days spent along the banks of the Delaware, wetting a line, skipping stones, taking a dip. The river was our natural resource that drew us all. You could not help yourself but to spend time gazing on the beauty of the river and spending time enjoying fishing and swimming. But I must confess one thing. We were smart enough always to swim upriver of the treatment plant. We were that smart. Yeah.
Very smart.
While I was just a teenager, little did I know that the river was dying. The macroinvertebrates were all dying and the fish were dying off. They are the key indicators of freshwater health. And the fish were dying in record numbers from point source pollution right up beyond that bridge and non-point source pollution entering the river. Fishery populations plummeted, and it was a sad time for the river. While the river was struggling to survive, I continued to develop my appreciation for the natural world when I studied recreation resource management in college, and I was called back to work, protect, preserve, and share my love and respect of all our cultural, natural, and historic resources working for the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, State Park Service. Whether it was protecting wetlands along the Hudson River or developing a trail through Sussex County, I spent 35 years witnessing New Jersey's residents enjoying, connecting, and developing a land ethic through their experience with our state's amazing natural resources. My career, fortunately, kept me in touch with my old friend, the Delaware River, and I was hearing that she was over the decades starting to rebound. I was honored that the residents of Phillipsburg elected me to be the mayor of Phillipsburg in November of 2015. While many of things would have been the end of my relationship with the natural resources in Jersey, it was in fact the heightening of it. Mayor Panto, my friend across the river, and I believe his Dawn Hurt is here, the Community Development Director. Here she is from Easton. My friend on the other side of the mighty Delaware, and I see the riverfront as our future. It is our future. It's a natural resource. In my experience with the Park Service, people are drawn to water. And I think that is our future with economics and ecotourism and destination tourism. The ecological and recreational tourist destination has flourished in Phillipsburg with tubing, fishing, shad tournaments, and things like that go on in Lambertville that I heard you attend sometimes. Now that I'm working for and in my hometown, I'm happy to be spending time with my old friend, the Delaware River. I'm proud to see the shad connection bring fishermen to the river and happy to welcome over 10,000 people last year. We're right in this parking lot, believe it or not, for a pork roll palooza. True story.
That's why we're here today.
Kelly Post-Sheedy, where's Kelly? Kelly brought 10,000 people here based on pork roll. So we'll take it. I'm excited to witness the people tube down the river along the Delaware and enter our town from our shoreline. I'm also thrilled to see the children splash along the banks. The Delaware River is such an important part of the town of Phillipsburg and the state of New Jersey. The Native Americans first settled along the banks of this river right up north from us, the Chittawink, enjoying the food resources that it provided. Later, as European settlers spread through the colonies, people experienced the transportation advantages the river could provide. A lot of the wood from the headwaters, where the governor's going to talk about today, from the Delaware, was moved down to Philadelphia to build ships. Now the town of Phillipsburg embraces the natural and cultural heritage of the river as we look to develop our downtown area and protect the river. In 2017 was a banner year. I was awoken by a phone call from a staff member, Beth Barry from the Conservancy. Is she here today? At 12 midnight to ask to come down to the river, rush to the river, And I ran out of the house in my pajamas with my wife screaming, "You're not going out of this house in your pajamas." But anyway, I made it down, and if I'm not mistaken, Beth, it was a historic shad fry run that was moving south past Phillipsburg's boat launch that we stand before today. The shad fry were returning to the ocean past Phillipsburg. It was a huge success for the NJDEP staff and all the other partner conservation groups, and it signals a victory for the many fishermen that visit the river. In fact, a single huge victory for residents of New Jersey and Pennsylvania. The Delaware River's health is improving. We are clearly on the road to success. It is critical for current and future generations to continue to protect and enhance our river. Sadly, the Delaware River and its watershed is under attack. The fracking and proposed deep well injection within the Delaware River watershed could put the health of Phillipsburg and the state of New Jersey's precious river resource at risk. As Mayor of Phillipsburg, I am pleased to have Governor Phil Murphy here today at the helm in Trenton. Governor Murphy understands the natural resources of the state and the Delaware River must be protected, and he and I, as parents, know that the protection of New Jersey's natural resources are so important for our children and their children and their children to come. Any missteps will destroy the river's resources for generations to come. With that said, Governor Murphy, the town of Phillipsburg, the residents of the state of New Jersey are so pleased to have you here today, and we are encouraged that you value the health of the Delaware River and its importance to our town. Let's give a warm welcome for Governor Murphy. And I ran up to Phillipsburg High School, and I couldn't resist but to give you a gift. And
My name is Philip, after all.
yeah. Oh. And would you believe they opened a store for you?
I love that. I love
I'm
that.
just going to stand next to you.
What a treat. What a treat. I'm going to take my hat off. Steve did not say this, but just to show how convinced we are that the Delaware River is going in the right direction, after we finish our remarks and take a couple of questions, Catherine, Tammy, Steve, and I are going to go for a plunge.
Wait, no one told me that.
That's not true. But your pajama comment threw me off, Steve. That's why I had to still trying to get my arms around that. It is a real treat to be in this town. We first spoke about Phillipsburg, and this is not a political event, but a factual matter, with Chairman Tom. And we spoke about my history as a Howard Dean guy, and that's when Steve and I first crossed paths. And so to both Tom and Steve, I thank you, and to all the elected officials and environmental advocates and citizens and members of law enforcement and everybody here today from both sides of the river. So welcome on our side. This is a wonderful and historic community, and the mayor is working hard to get this local economy really moving and to usher in a new era of growth in your hometown. We're just down the block from Union Station, which I'm told this year celebrates its 104th birthday. And I know the mayor has great plans for its future. And you don't have to look far just behind us to see the reason for the mayor's optimism, and you heard it in his words. One of Phillipsburg's, its key, in fact, economic asset is the Delaware River. Several of the plans that you're working on, Steve, and you've enunciated some of them today, center on the Delaware.
I do.
And why wouldn't you, given the extraordinary beauty of it and the importance of it? The Delaware River is much more than something that stands between us and Pennsylvania. It is more than New Jersey's, as some of you call it, West Coast. It's more than just some waterway that General Washington crossed in one of the greatest moments of the American Revolution. The river is both an economic and cultural lifeblood. For communities along our entire stateside riverfront and many more within the nearly 3,000 square miles of the Delaware River watershed within New Jersey, this waterway and its tributaries are the backbone of commerce and recreation, and a source for roughly 25% of our clean drinking water. Steve mentioned his own personal legacy at the Department of Environmental Protection. I'm particularly honored. I was visiting there the other day to have our nominated commissioner, hopefully soon to be confirmed, but now acting Commissioner Catherine McCabe with us today, who's been a stalwart for environmental interests and calling balls and strikes and being a fair participant and adjudicator on environmental interests for decades. I'm also very happy that the environmental expert in our household, Tammy Murphy, is with us today as well. More than a century ago, the Delaware River powered the growth of industry along both of its banks. And in return, the factories and city sewers poured untold amounts of pollutants into its waters. It took decades of hard work at the local, state, and national levels for the Delaware to return to health, and those efforts continue to this day. We cannot turn back the clock on this progress. It is our responsibility to hand over a cleaner river to our kids and their kids, as you said, Steve, just as it will be their responsibility to do the same for theirs. And unfortunately, for the past several years, New Jersey forgot this responsibility. As a partner, along with Pennsylvania, New York, and Delaware in the Delaware River Basin Commission, New Jersey seemingly forgot the importance of protecting the Delaware from one of modern times' most dangerous threats, fracking. This was on full display last September when New Jersey abstained rather than join with our sister states in taking the common sense step to advance a ban on fracking within the Delaware River watershed. No more. Today, I am announcing that New Jersey is reversing course. New Jersey will support efforts to permanently ban fracking within the entirety of the Delaware River watershed. I assume that does not come as a surprise to you today, given that we're gathered, but it is still worth a round of applause. I agree with that. Fracking puts our health and safety and the health and safety of our environment and our communities at risk. It is a direct threat to our water and runs counter to our values. We will take this step for Phillipsburg, which is relying upon a clean river to create jobs and new businesses, as we will for the countless river towns whose economies are inextricably linked to a clean Delaware. This is how we ensure a stronger economy. We will take this step for the people who directly rely on the Delaware River for their drinking water, and for the millions more who rely upon a clean watershed for theirs. We will take it for the countless farmers who need clean water for their crops and herds. We will take it for the millions of people who fish, swim, and hike, and who marvel at the natural beauty of the Delaware and its tributaries. This is how we ensure a fairer future. We take this step in partnership with our neighbors because pollution has a pesky way of ignoring state lines. When it comes to matters of protecting the Delaware River, we must act as one. Unfortunately, we cannot change the vote New Jersey previously took, but we can make and we will make amends for it by ensuring we do the right thing in the future. The Delaware River and the millions of New Jerseyans, Pennsylvanians, New Yorkers, and Delawareans who look to a healthy river for their family's own health will thank us for it. In the town of Phillipsburg, and the many river towns who have turned their focus to the river for their own economic futures will be better for it. I would now, again, thank you for having us, Steve. It's a treat to be here, and I would now like to ask First Lady Tammy Snyder-Murphy to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil, as always, and thank you, Mayor Ellis, for your warm welcome to Phillipsburg. Thank you all for joining us and for caring about the health of the Delaware River and its tributaries. The skeptics would look at today and wonder why New Jersey should be taking this action. After all, there is no fracking in our state. But that's missing the entire point. This unnatural and toxic chemical cocktail used to displace natural gas from the ground can and will end up in New Jersey unless we act. And whether those chemicals are injected into the ground or spilled on top of it, it all ends up in the same place. It doesn't happen overnight, but these chemicals do find their way into creeks and streams and smaller tributary rivers, and eventually into the Delaware River itself. Throughout that journey, more than just water is polluted. Even if fracking only stays on one side of the river, the chemicals won't. As Phil just said, they don't know how to abide by state lines. We must take the longer view for how we get our energy in the first place. Fossil fuels, once extracted, are gone. They are a finite resource. We must look at renewable and sustainable energy sources to reclaiming our dominance of the solar market and making ourselves dominant in the wind market. If we had taken this view from the start and invested in wind energy and solar energy as a means of ending our reliance on fossil fuels, supporting a ban on fracking at this moment wouldn't be so revolutionary. Today, New Jersey sends a strong signal to our partner states that yes, we want to work with you on our collective future. We are no longer going to sit on our eastern bank of the river, blind to the realities that surround us. And to Mayor Ellis, it sends a strong message that we stand hand in hand with Phillipsburg in protecting the health and vitality of one of the greatest natural resources, the Delaware River. Thank you all again, and Mayor, I cannot wait to come back and have some ribbon cuttings here for other reasons.
Pleasure will be all ours.
Thanks.
Some pork rolls.
Yeah, pork rolls. Okay.
Are we having pork rolls today, Stan? Or? I'm looking at this gentleman who's all bundled up. I obviously didn't read my memo and did not realize we were going to be outside today. So we're going to take a couple of questions, but don't be mad if we have to mail a couple answers back to you, because after we go for the swim, we're going to have to warm up. So please. Yeah, we can make sure that as we go forward, New Jersey abstained. The federal government voted against. New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware voted for, and we should have voted for. We can make sure that as this goes from where it was in September to final letter of the law, as it were, that it's as strong as it possibly can be, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Yeah. Use of water. Yeah. So for those of you who are not following this as closely as others, there are two water elements that are part of this. Water that is wastewater that comes into the basin, and water that goes from the basin out to support hydraulic fracking activities elsewhere, not in New Jersey. The answer is conceptually, we don't like either of those, but we want to make sure that we're on firm legal ground and we're not tripping up any interstate commerce matters. So we're looking very carefully at that. We're highly sensitive, as you can imagine, to that, both in and out. Particularly the particularly odious part of that is the water coming in that's wastewater. Somebody, yes. So we're still putting the pieces together. We have to, I think, do our budget address by the 13th of March, as you suggest, Ryan. It's about 6 weeks. We haven't really veered off of anything that we've campaigned on, but we're now on the inside for a whopping 16 days, and we're trying to get as much knowledge as possible. But until further notice, you should assume that we are where we've been on the whole range of matters as it relates to what we stand for and the fiscal realities associated. Please. I'm sorry? I assume these folks will, I'm not qualified to say yes, but yeah, there are plenty. Yeah, even this version of this administration's Environmental Protection Agency, before this administration. This gentleman's got the word science on his placard, and that's something that I wanted to give you a shout out. First of all, thank you for your service. But secondly, making decisions whether we always agree with the decisions or not, let's get back to making decisions based on the science and based on the facts. And that's what we're committed to. Thank you all for coming out. Great to be here. Steve, what a treat, man. I want to come back when it's warmer, though.
Yes, yes. We should be back. I do have a little...
And Tammy,